thank you all for joining us. We're really, really excited to be here. We'll go into more detail over what the seminar is going to cover, but first of all, I think it would make sense to show you the trailer of the film that the seminar is going to be about. So yeah, I'd like to introduce Verdigris. So Tania.
Don't treat me like I'm stupid. Do you think I'm stupid?
Hello, I'm from the Central Statistics Office and I have your census form.
You don't get any more information.
You could use a little extra money and I could use a little help with the census.
I want £3 every form, non-negotiable.
I don't know what you're up to, but you better drop it right now, or I'm warning you won't like the consequences. I don't see why we need 2 cars anymore. There's no need for you to go anywhere.
Stop!
Cool. So yeah, over the next 45 minutes, hour or so, we'll be taking you through some of obviously the key points that made this film. Next to me, I have 2 incredibly important people, the 2 people that made this film obviously happen. So I'd like to introduce the director, Patricia Kelly, and the DOP, Tania Freimuth. Yeah, so I suppose if we just start off before we get into the details of the shoot and how this was all done, if you want to kind of say a bit about and introduce yourselves, guys. So start with you, Patricia.
Thanks very much, Jack, and thanks very much to Canon for inviting us here. It's really, and thank you very much for coming out today. It's great to have everyone here. So yeah, this project has had a very short life so far. It's only a little over a year ago that I met Tania online doing an online networking thing, one of these things where you have 5 minutes to tell another person who you are and what you're all about. And so we connected doing that and then followed up afterwards. I knew I was gearing up to shoot Verdigris, which began shooting in January of this year. And so after talking a bit about the film, I asked Tania if she'd like to get involved with it. I did warn her in advance what she was getting into, I think. Did I properly?
Yeah. It sounded quite exciting though. I was like, do you want to shoot a film in January? It's November. Yeah, why not? What else am I going to do in January? And it just sounded like you sounded really enthusiastic, and the film, therefore, I thought would have lots of energy. And when I read the script, it just sounded like a really good, strong story for 2 female characters. And the style of shooting was something I was particularly interested in as well. So yeah, it was a win-win as far as I was concerned.
Yeah, and it's had a great life so far. Like I said, we started shooting on the 16th of January. We shot for 15 days, Monday to Friday for 3 weeks, in a very, very cold January and February in Dublin, and a really short post-production time as well. We debuted at the Galway Film Fleadh in July, and 6 months to the date of starting to shoot on the 16th of July, we won our first award, which was lovely. We won the Best Independent Film in Galway. Since then, it's been to 2 other film festivals where it's picked up another 2 awards, which is pretty wonderful. We went to the Kerry International Film Festival and got the Best Narrative Feature, and we were at Newport Beach Film Festival in California, where we got the award, the Audience Award for the Best Irish Film. So that's all. It's been a hell of a year. Thank you.
Been kept very busy even after the production's finished, so which is always good. So I think for the rest of it, obviously, we just want to go through some of the techniques that we use, some of the equipment that you guys use, some obviously questions on the relationship between you two, and how obviously the elements of working in an independent film together. We also have for you guys a range of clips that Tania's going to take us through, where we're going to be talking about obviously the filmmaking techniques, the equipment that was used to produce these. So if you want to run another clip now and then we carry on.
Yeah, they've put me in charge of the buttons and knobs. It's never a good idea, but I'll give it a try. Okay, here we go.
I think it was probably roughly about 2 months. That's not including writing it. I probably, before reaching out to Tania and anyone else in the team, probably took about a year to write it, roughly. And so by the time I reached out to Tania, it was maybe, I'm going to roughly say about 5 drafts of the script in, something like that. And then it went through another couple before we started shooting. So roughly a year to write it. And that included doing some workshopping with actors and things like that. And then roughly maybe 4 months pre-production, something like that.
Shall I play?
Open your boot. You got a spare in your boot, haven't you? I'd find a better place for that if I were you.
Thank you. Thank you, I will. Thank you.
Right, that's you. It's all done.
Sorry, let me give you some money.
No, look, I'm sorry about before, you know. A bit rough, wasn't it? It's all right.
Oh, it's forgotten. Thanks, seriously. Thank you.
Thank you.
It's good. So excellent clip from the film. That Tania, do you want to speak about any of the techniques used on that one, or for that particular thing, or one thing I might actually say we might do beforehand. I'm going to put this one on you, Patricia. Is we've obviously shown the trailer at the beginning. I think obviously because we see some of the relationships of the character beginning to form there, obviously without, hopefully, because people here haven't seen it yet, we'll hopefully you do very soon, without kind of giving too much away, just a quick kind of plot line on the relationship between some of the characters and who they are.
So these are the two lead characters. The older woman character, Marion, played by the amazing Geraldine McAlinden. She plays a woman who's recently retired and is in a really horrible, coercive, controlling relationship with her husband Nigel. And she takes on this job as a census enumerator, but does so in secret. He doesn't want her basically having any financial independence, doesn't see why she needs to leave the house at all. So she takes it on. She's from kind of a leafy suburb and nice background. So she specifically asks for a route that's far away from home so that she can keep it secret. And she's given a kind of a very rough inner city route where she meets our second lead, Jewel, who's played by Maya, who has been basically living by herself since her mother abandoned her when she was 12. So it's basically, you know, she's got all the street smarts and so on, and Marion has all the privilege. And, you know, on the face of it, they have nothing nothing to offer each other, but a very deep and lovely friendship forms between the two of them, and they save each other effectively. That's roughly the premise of the story. And it was I should say that it was very specifically written in order to be able to be shot in 15 days with, you know, a pretty skeleton crew, just a few cast, locations that we, you know, didn't have to pay for. It was written, every moment of it really was designed to be done on a micro budget and in order for us to be able to move quick on our feet, etc.
I had a great crew though.
Very much so, yeah.
I mean, the crew was absolutely phenomenal. So I see a question. I see a hand.
Sorry, I don't know if I missed that information, but what exactly was the budget? Because micro budget can be so.
Of course it can. Well, we have to keep this in the room because our sales agent has asked us not to say it publicly because for obvious reasons they would like to.
Wait, you're at CAMERIMAGE.
Yeah. It was 50,000
pounds. Pounds, right?
Euro.
Euro. Okay. And can I also ask, before we speak about techniques, what the gear was? Just the main kit?
What do you mean the deal?
Camera, lenses?
Oh, what equipment did I use?
Exactly.
We used a C500 Mark II, shot full frame, and we had a combination of the Cineflex zooms and the Cine Primes, which are the primes that they've been running for a while, but they turned out to be quite a good match. Initially, I thought I'd use the seminariums because of all the interiors and going naturalistic, but actually the regular Cine Primes just worked fine. They were a really good match.
Thanks.
How much of that 50 grand actually went to your department to camera grip lighting?
I don't think we can go that far.
Okay.
Sorry. I think that's going too deep. I think the powers that be at home would be giving us a clip round the back of the head, would they not?
Yeah, we get into trouble.
We can catch up on that one later.
I have a question about the specific scene we just seen. So when she walks into the street and she kind of walks into the light and she's you know, they spot each other, and then we see the character kind of turn around and walk away, but she also walks away into shaded area, and I wonder how much of that was pre-planned and how much of that was the time of the day, and just how, you know, the light was, because I know in micro-budget productions you can always plan those things ahead. Like if they happen, that's nice, sure, but you have limited amount of time on the location.
So before we shot, I did a trip to Dublin to do recce's with Patricia, who'd already plotted the route out because, is it a numerator?
Yes.
The enumerator route out. And I was just ecstatic to discover that main road basically falls east-west. So then it was just a question, and I say just, I mean, you can't like totally manage the blocking of the action to get the sun behind the characters and whatnot, but I did my level best to sort of move myself and to basically work the blocking and the line of action so the sun was where I wanted it to be, and so that we got the best sort of use of it. And we could, rather than like it just being behind the camera and like flattening the image, we could get some sort of side lighting, and yeah. So naturally, that it was a bit of choreography, clever blocking, and yeah, a bit of town planning from Dublin County Council.
So I think it adds a lot to that shot. Sorry, I think it adds a lot to that shot that, you know, she's also not just walking away to kind of distance herself, but she's also kind of, it's the idea of disappearing in a shadow and having herself less seen. So I feel like the effect looks really incredible.
Thank you. I mean, you do sort of talk about it. There is that sort of desire to have everything like full in frame the entire time and everything lit the entire time, because I think we're just living in a very sort of bright, kind of overlit world. So sometimes we get through a shot and like we'd have a chat and go, well, does that work? Do we feel that's right? Does that serve the story at this point? And if it was a sort of, you know, communal thumbs up, we'd just go with it.
Yeah, I do have to say though, I think Tania's been a little bit modest there. It was a difficult scene to shoot because what you probably don't see there is that it's a very busy road actually, and we did not have the resources to close it off. So it was a case of go and try and get it, and then get off the road and let's go again. And so for the whole shoot. But in particular, when we were out on the street, basically over the 3-week shoot, roughly we were a week outside in the interiors, and that was Tania really had to move fast, you know, think on her feet, you know, deal with constantly changing light, you know, and that sun that, you know, was you know, could cause problems and things like that. So she really did an incredible job under difficult circumstances.
Thank you. There was that moment when I was stood in the middle of the road, wasn't there? It's like, I need a close-up, and I was like, I'm going to have to stand in the middle of the road, okay? Because, of course, you got, like, the C500 gives you a choice to be the full frame, which gives you, like, your biggest file size, which was really important for this film at that, you know, because we didn't know what moving forward our, like, pipeline was going to be for the movie. Or you could go Super 35 or Super 16, and of course in full frame, you know, your lens range isn't quite what it could be if you'd flip to Super 16 or Super 35. So yeah, middle of the road, but worth it, I think. You know. Should we look at another clip, or yeah?
There's just one question there, and then maybe we'll have another clip after that.
I don't advocate standing in the middle of the road, by the way. Don't do it.
Hi. Patricia, I have a question about the editing of the movie, because like you said, if it's on a busy road, like you really have to be careful which take you're gonna take, and often you have to hide stuff through the editing. So how was the editing process for you? How long did you edit the movie with whom, and any tips about that?
Well, it was tricky, in particularly because of the time frame, and part of the reason that we went with that time frame is when I invited my co-producer Paul Fitzsimons to come on board. Shortly before I wrote Tania in, his first question was, could it be ready for Galway? And I knew that Galway's final deadline was the middle of March, and we were shooting in January, February, so I said, well, we'll give it a go. So the whole time we were basically chasing that deadline. So I was really, really structured in knowing that we needed to have an assembly ready to send them by mid-March, and then maybe by the end of April, another half-decent cut to send them, and the end of May, Tania, I think it was the end of May, Tania came over to Dublin to have a look at another cut, and so on. So I was constantly kind of working towards those deadlines and just knowing what needed to be achieved in those very practical terms. But in terms of in terms of choosing shots and so on, we intentionally chose for this to be very realist, and just kind of it was always the idea we get what we can get, and we'll work with what we've got. and we did get very lucky, as Tania said. We had a terrific crew, but we also had amazing actors who just I had a lovely choice of takes to choose from, and I was always going to choose the best takes, even if they didn't entirely line up, you know, in terms of continuity or whatever. So it really wasn't desperately difficult, but I think that's also because we were very intentionally going kind of docu-style, and doesn't matter if it's a little rough. It's quite nice if sometimes it's not 100% sharp, and so on. That was we knew that was part of the aesthetic that we were going for.
You also had a lot of prep time with the actors, didn't you? You spent a lot of good rehearsal time.
Very, very much so. Definitely, it worked because they were well rehearsed, and in particular, I know this isn't possible on every shoot, but we had the two main locations. My house and my mother's house and the streets, and so the actors were actually able to rehearse in the location that we were going to be shooting, so they got a real feel for the physical space and things like that, and they told me that has made an incredible difference to them. So it meant that you know, all that work was done in advance, so that we were able to just really hit the ground running on day one of shooting.
How long it took, and what kind of rehearsal? You said a rehearsal on the location, but before, did you read the script with them, and then, you know, and were you present as a cinematographer during rehearsals?
No, I wasn't present in the initial rehearsals, but later.
Yeah.
Because that's how we established how we were going to shoot it.
Yeah. So initially, once they were cast, we rehearsed, like I said, you know, for example, in my house, and the actors came over, and because most people also have, you know, day jobs and other, you know, responsibilities and so on. Generally, it was worked with kind of evenings, you know, so there might have been a couple of evenings. Generally, I don't know, we might have done a couple of scenes per evening, that kind of thing. You know, a couple of full days, in particular, where we walked around the streets and basically kind of chose. Myself and Tania, for example, had already done the location scout, so we knew which streets we wanted to use. I was generally able to say to Tania, I think, you know, this street, that street for this kind of scene, and she was able to say, well, if we shoot it in that direction or this direction or whatever. So between us, we pretty much figured out where we were going to be shooting, and then I could bring the actors there and say, we're either going to start here and end there, or we're going to start here and end there. So let's try it and see how it goes, and we could kind of make that decision on the day. So I did say to the actors that in terms of rehearsal, we were going to start with what I felt was the right amount of rehearsal, and I would judge it, but that they were to please let me know if they would like more. That there was enough time to still schedule more if required. But of course, nobody wants to be generally over rehearsed either. So we kind of got to a spot where everybody knew that what their characters' intentions, etc. were, and we're very, very comfortable with it.
And what was the time distance between rehearsals and shooting?
So we generally, there was probably about a month where we, in between. Partly that was because of Christmas. So we roughly finished around about mid-December, and we started shooting mid-January. Now we did have a table read over the Christmas break, just for one day. Actually, it turned out to be a half a day. Again, that was just, you know, to check everyone was happy with what they got, and we also did then, you know, some, you know, costume and hair and makeup trials and things like that on the same day. But roughly, it was to give a good month for people to rest, to think about what they had done, but always with the proviso that they could come back to me in the meantime if they wanted to discuss anything further or try anything, and that they would, you know, schedule any more rehearsal. But everyone was happy enough to kind of rest up and come fresh then to set.
And one more question about set design, because micro budget is tricky in terms of set design, right? Because we want to shoot realistically, and then. So did you have like, to what extent you could kind of, you know,
Trisha's mum's house does not look like that. That's all. I was quite surprised because it was a lot of it was started the set design before I got there.
Yeah.
And obviously it was all taken down while I was still there, and I was like, wowza, the smallest things can make the huge difference.
Yeah, we had a terrific production designer who had a very small team under her. I've worked with her before. She designed 2 of my shorts, so we already had a really good kind of working relationship. And she knew in advance, you know, she was actually the first person that I contacted before anybody else to just say, look, I'm doing this thing. You know, the resources are insanely small, but you know, you get first refusal, and thankfully she liked it and wanted to go with it. But it was difficult, and maybe we might see later on in a clip that there's some of the props figure really prominently, and there was a huge amount of hand painting miniature soldiers, which herself and her husband spent far too long doing. So really, it really was a labour of love for everyone that was involved, I believe.
What's this clip? Is it the cooking clip? Okay.
Your flat's gorgeous. You've made a lovely home for yourself.
I know.
Now get your colander.
What's a colander?
Never mind. You put on the pan. So we get our butter, nice big chunk. A wee bit of the garlic. But the secret to the prawns is they have to be pink. You flip them over. Okay. Now we are ready for the pasta. You tip that in. Lovely. Perfect. You're doing great. Alright, give it a good old stir, yeah. Spread it around. Lovely. You're a dab hand at this, Jewel. Smells nice, doesn't it? You made that. Here you go.
Oh, it's all right. It's just Sam. Sam? Marion?
Oh my God. 2 gorgeous ladies in one kitchen.
You should have. Here, come here. Here, taste this.
What?
Look what we made.
Huh? Mmm.
I made that. Well, Marion showed me how.
Nice one, Marion. Jeez, that's gorgeous. Well done, you.
No.
I'm not supposed to be out.
No. I only popped in to get me spare kid, actually. I have to get back to work. Yeah.
Actually, I got you something.
Jude, what? Oh my God, you have to stop buying me things. Where did you get this?
Moore Street. It's just a knockoff. It's nice though, isn't it? Do you like it?
It looks expensive.
It was for nothing. Do you like it?
Yeah, I love it. It's deadly, but will you stop buying me things, right? It's my turn. Right? Go on. See you, Marion.
So it's not Sam that's giving you the bruises?
Oh my God, no. 2 women did that to me, all right? Now that's all you're getting.
Why did you tell him you got the jacket on Moore Street?
Didn't I tell you to stop watching me? Yeah. I have a question.
Go ahead.
What do you mean you're not supposed to be out?
Thank you very much. Do you want to say anything, Tania, about the difficulties there of
Cooking food?
Cooking food. Oh God, yeah, that was a mistake. I'm not doing that again. Cooking food and basically your roving camera in and out of constantly moving actors and things. That was
sort of felt for the script supervisor, really. We decided to choreograph all the camera action with the actors, which meant a certain amount of diving around the kitchen for me. And actually, you really need the actors' cooperation with that, don't you? I mean, it's got to be a full kind of team effort to sort of swing around. But the biggest challenge is really maintaining the line of action and knowing that even though you're shooting it like it's going to flow in one full take with maybe a few cutaways, you've still got to shoot it for the edit so that you know that the editor can get in and cut that scene down, which does remove some of the movement, but it really helped the flow of the scene, I think, just to keep it alive, didn't it?
Definitely, and really in the whole film in general, but in particular in this scene and scenes like this, I got a real appreciation for the value of an amazing script supervisor, which we were lucky to have. Again, I'd worked with her on a couple of my shorts, and she was just terrific. And I got a proper appreciation there for how, you know, they can really just keep you on track, purely even just in terms of eye lines and things like that. That was, you know, that without Eleanor having been so incredible with that, I think it would have been a total nightmare to cut. But knowing that she was on the ball and we didn't really have to worry about that because she was very much looking after that, at least, you know. And as you said, we had very willing actors who were pretty much happy to do whatever was necessary. And then, you know, for you to just find all those beautiful shots. One of my favourites in the whole film is that lovely shot of Marion through Jewel and Sam, and I absolutely love that. And it's not anything that I would have thought of. You found it, and it's beautiful.
Just being able to move. It's like you get a feeling for the script, and then get a feeling for how the actors are performing, and then just being able to. I mean, that's what I love about handheld, and like having sort of like a light, compact camera on your shoulder as well. Just enables you to sort of shift into those positions that you know you're going to want to capture, that people are going to really sort of get a feeling for that character through.
Yeah, and I think it does, you know, it also, I think, gives the actors a feel for being able to certainly improvise small moments, if not like hugely improvise, but certainly knowing that Tania was going to be able to be there as she was to grab all the lovely little moments and the little things that they did. You know, they were. I feel like they were caught and captured in a way that maybe wouldn't have come so nicely, or certainly not within such a short frame if we'd been, you know, static, if you hadn't been able to just kind of say, oh, I'm actually going to move over here. Oh, let me try it over there, you know?
It's got that sort of spontaneous sort of authenticity, isn't it?
Yeah.
The minute you put it on a tripod, you sort of feel like it's a bit more contrived because I guess everybody's waiting for it to happen. And then it gets stale really quickly. So I suppose that's the sort of choreographing your action with the actors. Being in the moment with them allows you to get those like little insights to the character.
Yeah, yeah.
And was that as well just because I believe you shot that scene on the flex zooms, not the CNEs?
Not inside.
Not inside, okay.
Because you're in somebody's house, so it's quite a small room. I think the flex zooms that might have inadvertently taken an actor out. Yeah. No, we switched the primes on the inside mainly because, I mean, I was like, at times closer than I am to Patricia now, and if you think about the length of the zooms, so there was just the practicalities of it. I'd have in a bigger space, I'd have no issue with doing that because they're also really fast, those zooms. One of the things I was concerned about, I knew we needed zooms, but it's always, you know, zooms in my mind from back in the day, you know, coming through film, zooms have always been a little bit slow, but these aren't. And then you've got this, you know, the technology inside the camera and the sensors being like really responsive to light. So I wouldn't have any issues with sufficient space of working with those indoors whatsoever. But the practicalities of the size of the location meant that the primes were just a better fit. I mean, I don't even think we used the matte box just to keep everything down because you just don't want to accidentally bump into somebody, which there were a couple of close shaves, weren't there?
Yeah, I mean, obviously, you know, shooting on location in a small enough house, and you think you've got no crew until they're very much there in the way when you're trying to shoot. Yeah.
Okay. I have a question for you, Tania. I want to ask you why you choose in the scene the purple lighting. Was it that you choose different lighting or color that you think like, oh, it might catch, or was it a big contrast to the shirt of the actor? Or, I mean, I love the reflection in the wine glass, so it looks very gorgeous. I just want to ask why you choose purple.
I'm not sure why purple in particular.
Yeah.
But definitely we decided that Jules' character, she was like a young girl. She's like sort of 16 or so. And when we were looking at visual references for, well, current day visual references, because the film's meant to be sort of social realism, you know, a lot of people have these LEDs, you know, RGB LEDs dotted around all over the place. And I don't know, we tried out with pink or magenta, and that just seemed like too harsh. And so we kind of landed on purple. And then we were mixing it with tungsten, so you kind of got that complementary color, sort of like yellow, purple thing going on. But I don't think it was particularly a character reflection for me, but more complementary.
And also there's another location in the same house that you use blue in. So we were definitely avoiding blue because that was for that room. And so then it was, I think you just went with another like cool, funky color that was representative of Jewel in that space once you were there.
Yeah. Is that, yeah, cool.
If you want to show the next one, actually, we'll see the other main location, and you might get a glimpse of some of the soldiers, etc., in the background. And this is, we're going to just see inside Marion's home here now, and her horrible husband.
I was talking to the farmer down the road. He's putting in some broccoli. So I put in a big order. Well, I told him when it was grown, we'd definitely have some. It's really nice in that pie, you know, the chicken and leek and broccoli pie I make. But it won't be ready for about another month or so. But it's mad the way it grows. It's like a big long stalk he was showing me. Who's your... Used to seeing it in the supermarkets.
Austria lost its dominant position in the German Confederation. As both Italy and Germany were now unified at Austria's expense, the Emperor Franz Joseph was determined to prevent the further crumbling of the empire.
Thank you very much.
Another very powerful scene. I think just a quick question from me on that one. This is, as the film goes on, because in my opinion, the character of Marion, you don't see a lot of her emotion at the beginning, and she gets stronger and stronger as the piece goes on. And I think this is almost a bit of one of the turning points, in my opinion. So the fact in a film, as you're saying, you had some good rehearsal time with them, but the two of you, how did you kind of work together as a pair, a DOP and a director, to really kind of bring out the emotions in the scene? So partly obviously from the performance point of view, but then from the final output point of view as well with the shooting of it.
So because myself and the actors are all based in Dublin, and Tania is UK based, quite a bit of our work was, a lot of it was done over Zoom, and a couple of trips then to Dublin. So basically, I would I remember it as there being a lot of back and forth. Conversation and communication, when Tania came over first of all, and she, measured up the spaces and went away and had kind of like rough drawings of the spaces. Then I went in to the locations and rehearsed with the actors, and then basically came back to Tania and said, okay, so this is kind of how it worked, and this is what we were thinking. And for example, I would have already had a conversation with Tania in for example, let's say the kitchen scene, and we would think, okay, well, maybe it would be best if Tania was in this particular corner to kind of start off, that kind of thing. And then I would rehearse it with the actors, and we would have to basically, we started with that and I said, let's just see, does this work? And if it did, tickety-boo, went back and went, yeah, that's what we're doing. And if it didn't, if it all just seemed, really kind of static or something like that, and it was a case that the actor said, actually, I really feel like I'd, get up and do something at this point, or I really feel whatever. I absolutely felt that it was crucial that the actors felt that they could do that, because this film in particular, given what it was, I felt and feel, it was always going to live or die on the performances, realistically, and the story. So I had to really prioritise what they wanted, but they were very, very respectful of all of the kind of the restrictions that we had to work in, whatever. So I would go back and kind of feed or tell Tania, report back on kind of how we had gotten on with rehearsal and if anything had changed and why it had changed and so on. And then we discussed it further and further broke it down, so that we had, we did a lot of shot listing over Zoom. Anything else?
We had a full 3-day sessions, didn't we? Of like really intense.
Yeah.
So every single scene got a wish list, shot list, which basically I think confirmed for us like our approach on the scene. But before that, whilst Patricia was doing her work with the actors and from your work as a director, and I was going through the script, I guess figuring out the beats and the turning points in the story, but in each character also. And then that sort of obviously played into our shot listing. And then on top of that, looking for like subtext, so that we could know what kind of shots we'd need to get sort of as cutaways or insert shots to support the kind of, the subtext of the story, the emotional beats of the story. And then when we wanted to go from like whether it was objective or subjective, and sometimes we knew it was easy to see that in advance, and then sometimes it would be having gone through it and for me, getting that understanding of the script in advance, like it meant that during actual shooting sometimes there'd just be a gut feeling that obviously came directly from the script to say, well, look, I think we need to get a really more objective point of view on this, so that you can say, allow the audience to feel the moment rather than doing what we were sort of sometimes inclined to do, which was be subjective and be in the bucket with the vomit, for instance. And, sometimes it's better to leave people to rest for themselves and make their own sort of decisions about, their emotional response to a scene. So for me, sort of like going through the script and I guess getting the director's perspective on it and also the actor's perspective on it, there's quite a lot of work that goes on there for me anyway.
Mm. I think we have a really short clip to show, which again, I think it's the exterior night when Jules tells Sam. I think that's next.
It is. Jack, did you have another question?
I've got a couple. We can always show. I'm just conscious of time. We've got about 10 minutes. So bit of a question for me, because I think I should have checked with you yesterday, actually, so I'll ask you this now. So it's a bit of a surprise question, but don't worry, I don't think it's a tricky one. In terms of any film production, whether it's independent, high-end cinema, something like that, there is always a risk. Sometimes you have to go back over and reshoot certain scenes. So you might have planned to do a scene on this day, then you go back, you watch the rushes, and you realise something's incorrect. Did you have any of those in these?
We didn't have any where we looked back on what we shot and went, oh, we have to do that again, thankfully. But we did, on a few days, we just did run out of time. And so, again, thankfully, we had a pretty terrific first AD who was also very much on the ball. So we did just manage, we did have to squeeze them into to other days while we were kind of still on that week's location. That kind of thing, and sometimes it was a case of, okay, well, we really had hoped to get that, but actually, do you know what, this is more important, so let's prioritize that, and if we get the other, fantastic, and if we don't, we can live without it.
Okay, because I think the next part of the question was going to be, which I think you've just answered anyway, was obviously the challenges of working on a smaller budget or an independent film, not necessarily having official permission to shoot in all the locations or out in public, kind of how, if you did have to go about the reshoot, how you'd look at kind of squeezing that in.
We did have permission though, didn't we?
We had permission to for all of the streets that we were walking on, but a couple of things, like there's one shot where Jewel gets on a bus, and, and we did just jump on the bus, and we were kind of prepared to, you know, if we get kicked off, we get kicked off, but thankfully we didn't, and it all worked out fine. But generally we were a little well, I'm not worried, but a little kind of, I wonder how this is going to go, because we're in it's a North Inner City location, and we could have come across some issues with some of the residents, but generally we didn't. Generally, they were only just very curious and kind of lots of questions and things like that. So we really got very lucky pretty much throughout.
There's only one slightly dicey moment, wasn't there? And even that we overcame. Yeah,
exactly. We were shooting in one place where there was a local entrepreneur, I'll put it that way, who didn't really want us being anywhere near what he was selling. So we had to shoot very quickly and depart, which we did.
And I think we did throughout the day, though. I mean, not officially at the end of the day, but like you're continually assessing the situation. Like your intimate knowledge of the script, of what you need to accomplish, you know, it's embedded. And so you kind of, as you're going along, you've got a mental checklist, and with your first AD, there's always a sort of like a conflab moment where people are checking in with each other and going, did we get this? Do we now need to get that? Have we got any cover if we can't get this? And sometimes you're just adjusting your journey as you go along. You know, there's always more, you always want to shoot more than you do, but I think the more you understand, the better understanding of what you want to achieve, the more efficient you become, really. So yeah, we were good, I think, mostly. I don't think we had really any oversights.
No, we just, as I said, sometimes had to, like, for example, on the very last day, our last shot, really, we were supposed to do it in about 3 shots, and we needed to do it then in 1 because we were out of time. So that again was you just being very, you know, light on your feet and creative, and you just then moved from one room to another quickly, and we made it a feature of the what was going on for the character, rather than it looking like a mistake. But that was just a case of having to. We can't do 3 setups. We do 1, so make it count, kind of.
That was me just jumping from like one doorway to the other doorway.
Yeah.
Right.
And it worked, yeah.
I just had a really, really quick question before the time ran out for Tania. I mean, I know we're at a Canon seminar, but I was curious what brought you to choose the C500 Mark II to shoot on, as opposed to like an Arri camera or Sony camera or even another Canon camera, and then what led you to decide what lens to shoot on as well?
So, well, camera size, size. So I knew it was going to be on my shoulder like all day, every day. We didn't use a tripod like in 4 weeks. So from the get-go, it was going to be on my shoulder. So size, weight, and form factor. So a lot of cameras build kind of outwards that way, and the Canon cameras kind of build up. So that way it was going to stay kind of within my personal space, which is vital when you're going to be really close to actors. And the only time when the zooms went on were really on exteriors, when I was at a fair distance to them, which kind of supported the kind of documentary, sort of slightly voyeuristic feeling. What was the other part of the question? Or does that answer them all?
The cine lenses.
The cine lenses, they're my go-to. I think if you've got ample time to, do a lot of research into lenses and test them out. That's the ideal, isn't it? But over the years, I've been shooting with Canon lenses. I've come to trust how they look, and I like how they look, which it suits what I want to do. And at the end of the day, that's what we're all trying to achieve, to create films that look the way we want them to look, that fit with the genre, that also fit with the way the director wants them to look. And and Canon do that for me. So, yeah.
Thank you very much.
Pleasure.
Would you have chosen the same if you had like 3 million budget?
Yes.
Okay.
I kind of go, yes, because when you get to that much money, other people have opinions, right? It's becomes a much bigger thing. But with that much money, if I was still just allowed my choice, yeah, absolutely. Because it's got the, to get geeky, inside the machine, it can deliver, right? And at that point, that's a huge box checked. And then, you've got the lenses and they deliver. So for me, regardless of budget, it's still a win-win. And then, you've got all the file sizes, you've got all the data, you've got everything you need to go into, a high-end grade and create to your heart's content. So yeah, absolutely. It's just that at some point with more money becomes more opinions, and that's a different ballgame.
I have a question for you, Patricia. Could you tell us a little bit about your festival strategy and distribution strategy?
Sure. So far, we're going to have our 4th festival this coming weekend in London, the Irish Film Festival London, and that we're going to be in Cork next month, and then I think in spring we're going to be going to the East Coast of America. We have found so far that we're getting the greatest reception at the Irish Film Festivals, so that's very much where we're focusing. And other festivals that really kind of champion indie film. There are strengths and also those that are very welcoming particularly welcoming of female filmmakers and things like that. I think we basically decided that having a focus on those was really going to work for us rather than kind of have a scattergun approach. And then in terms of sales and distribution, we've partnered with a sales agent, Silver Mountain Distribution, who are looking after all of that.
How many days of color grading or DI did you have?
With Patricia? Oh, sorry, what's the question?
How many days of color grading?
Oh, color grading.
Oh, color grading.
Yeah.
Was it like a week or two?
Yeah, it was, and again, it was done remotely. Even our colorist, Magdalena Tournier, another incredible member of our team. She's Dublin based as well, but still during COVID she got used to everything being really remote, and that suited me fine as well. So basically, I had a good number of kind of look sessions with her, and we kind of figured out. We took some kind of key scenes and figured out what were an approach to them, and then Tania joined us for 3 or 4 maybe hour-long Zoom sessions where we kind of went into much more detail then with those, and then Lena kind of went away and did all of her stuff in the background, and then sent us what she'd been working on.
We could sort of cherry pick certain scenes that were then going to set the look for subsequent scenes or preceding scenes. So we sort of figured out which were the key, turning point scenes to establish that. And then she would have had a pop at establishing a look for it, which we'd then look at as a group and make any tweaks. But it was a question of fitting it in between my work schedule, her work schedule. And so, yeah, and obviously with her being in Dublin and me being in the UK, it was a sort of a dial-in situation. It's much more fun to sit in the room, I have to say.
But I'd say a week is quite much, right, for that budget?
Yeah, and again, it was kind of split up. I mean, gosh, I don't know how much actual time Lena spent. If she were to add up all of her hours, it absolutely doesn't match the budget for sure. But to be honest, you could say that realistically about everybody's involvement in the film. It was the exact same thing. She, you know, thankfully for us, she was happy to get involved with the project, even though, you know, she wasn't being, you know, compensated in the way that she would normally be. But you can say the exact same for Tania and everyone else that was involved.
I think we've got one question there. We also have one last clip left to play, so we'll do the question first, then finish on a clip, I think, and then try and...
As a quick one, I wanted to get back to one of the first things that you said, that you met on a networking event, and I'm very curious how that worked. You just, you know, met her. It was like the first time that you guys seen each other, and you were like, yeah, let's do a film.
Well, there was a couple more steps in between, but effectively, you know, the previous person I spoke to ran a charity, and somebody else that was also a children's author, and then up popped Tania, and she's like, "Oh, I'm a cinematographer," and I was like, "Hey, I'm a director. We should definitely talk some more." So we had our 5 minutes, and we got through what we could do in that. But of course, as you're supposed to, we followed up afterwards, and followed up with a few emails, and then, you know, kind of just a friendly Zoom, and to kind of talk more about why did you want to be a filmmaker and all that kind of stuff. We did, yeah, we did, and sussed each other out. And you know, Tania's like, "Oh, well, what are you working on?" I was like, "Well, I'm doing this," and blah blah blah. And we kind of talked around it for a while, and talked about, might be this kind of film, or, you know. And Tania's like, "Oh, it sounds a bit like," you know. So some of the, you know, kind of references that we talked about a little bit were Fish Tank was a strong reference, and Never, Rarely, Sometimes, Always was another. And so we talked about how the aesthetic of this might kind of fit. And so it basically, you know, it became really obvious that we were on the same page, and we were kind of imagining the same, visualizing the same film. And it was because of that then, well, Tania said, you know, "And is there anything I can do to help?" And I said, "Well, how would you feel about shooting it?"
That sums it up, actually. Yeah, I think you've got to be on the same page, and you kind of know. And you've got to figure all that out before you start shooting. Because once you start shooting, you know, you're working for one end, which is the film. And so I think you've really got to have an appreciation for where each other want to go to, and fundamentally the thing that you're trying to achieve. So everybody's got to be singing from the same hymn sheet, really. And I don't think it can be a dictatorship in that way. It's got to be an understanding and a value and a desire.
Thank you.
So I know we are rapidly running out of time. Do we have time to play one last clip just to end up on? So, yeah.
Yeah, so this is basically towards the end of the film, and everything has gone horribly wrong for our young co-lead here. And in this scene, she is telling her lovely boyfriend how she's been earning a living all these years. She's kept it a secret up to now. And the reason that I thought it would be good to show this is because this is one of those moments where we did exactly as you mentioned earlier on, moved from subjective to objective, and kind of allowed the characters to have a bit of space that we weren't privy to.
And actually, this is that scene where we run outside because we run out of time.
Yeah.
Okay. So if it's wobbly, I'm sorry.
What the fuck happened? Look at me. Mauler's after ringing me. What the fuck?
Thanks very much.
Now, unfortunately, I think we we have run out of time. So again, thank you so much, you guys, for coming and joining us for this. Just before we do go, obviously, I know release date's not set yet, but from as far as I'm aware, you were saying you're all over social media.
Yeah, if you want to follow us on any of your favourite social medias, you'll keep up to date on where it's gone next and what's happening with it.
Oh.
Thank you very much. Thank you for coming.